So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the unlicensed counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. And as always, a beautiful day here in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. I am grateful to be here. It's just perfect outside. It's perfect. I'm smiling. I'm happy. It's that perfect time of year. I put up my Christmas tree last night. Yes, I put it up in November. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I love it. Honestly, it's one of my favorite nights of the year. It's just, I have a lot of ornaments. We go through, they kind of all have, not all of them, but a lot of memories attached to them from people, places, things that my daughter made, stuff that you picked up from trips over the years. I kind of take our time. We put on the Christmas music. We put on the log in the fireplace from YouTube. That's what we do out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, because it's still so nice out here. We dance, we play, we laugh. Fun. Just really enjoy that. And in one of the things that we're going to talk about today, I had this kind of planned before this, is, planning for a positive holiday season. So that is really what I want to get into today. I want to hit this before we get into full holiday mode, right? Because I feel like once we hit Thanksgiving, it's like gone. You roll into December, you've got parties, you got events, you got holidays, you got break, you got all this stuff. So it's like, what if we take a little time now, we're in mid-November, and we start to make a plan and we be very intentional about how we can go into this holiday season and have really a positive outlook and kind of handle the highs and lows and stresses and all the things that kind of come with this. And for a lot of people, and I got a dusting of this myself too, it can be sometimes sad. And the only reason I'd say it's sad is sometimes you've lost a loved one. I've got a divorce and, co-parenting things. And sometimes, these emotions come up as you're going through the holidays and things like that. And so I want to make sure that I was thinking about how I want to have a positive plan. I'm like, well, let's share that with our audience. I think it would be valuable. So I came up with a kind of an outline for you. I want to share that with you, and then hopefully you can share it out to all your friends so everybody can have a positive plan as they're rolling through the holiday season. So before we do that, I obviously want to take a second and say thank you to our friends over at Buzzbin Media. Buzzbin Media, this is the company that pays you $10 a month to put ads on the side of your trash can. It's really that simple. Go to buzzbinmedia.com. That's BUZ1Z. BINmedia.com and enroll. There's a new resident sign up for it. Cost you nothing. Cancel anytime. I don't know why you would, but they're going to pay you to advertise on the side of their trash can. It's really that straightforward. They're going to be rolling out in a city near you very soon. Go ahead and get signed up at buzzbinmedia.com. Next, I always do like to talk about the nonprofit work that I do here around youth drug abuse prevention. Look, you know me, the unlicensed counselor by now. I'm in long-term recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. This is something that I'm very, very, focused on in my own life. I co-founded this nonprofit called Hard Stop. Go to thestopstartshere.org. We produce award-winning, Emmy-nominated content around youth drug abuse prevention. I encourage you to give us a follow on the social media platforms as well, too, to stay current with all the stuff that we're pushing out as well, too. And I always like to plug to the parents that hear this, go and download our free resource. It's the Parents Prevention Playbook to help prevent your son or daughter from ever picking up and starting to use drugs as well, too. Go to thestopstartshere.org. Last but not least, I'd like to plug me, the unlicensed counselor. Obviously, thanks for subscribing and listening. Share this episode or other episodes with your friends, but give us a follow on all the social media channels as well, too, especially YouTube. We clip up the show. We post it. You can digest it in kind of bite-sized bits and pieces. Although, look, we try and do this in about 30 minutes, so I think you should be able to consume it. But give us a follow anyways. You may find some stuff or rehear something that you find very valuable over the course of your day. So, okay, good stuff. So, holiday season, highs, lows, financial stress, friends, family, parties, travel, budget. I mean, it's like we get everything thrown at us when we roll into the holiday season. What I wanted to do is be more intentional before we get into it, right? Because once you get into the next, honestly, I look at Thanksgiving and it's like, go. And that next 6 weeks, it like disappears. It's fun. You got college football going. You got the kids home from break. You got ski trips. You got Christmas. You got all this stuff. It's super fun, but it's overwhelming, and it goes by so fast. And you're put in a lot of positions that maybe you're not normally in over the course of the year. So let's have a little bit of a plan. Let's just give it a little bit of thought before we kind of steamroll into the holiday season. So that's what your friend, the unlicensed counselor, came up with today. But first, I like to talk about why things might be tough, right? Let's get into why, so then we can address the plan for addressing all these things. So really, the holidays are tough. The first thing that kind of popped into my mind is really around loneliness. You know, whether you're single, a single parent, or just kind of out there in the world, many people feel kind of isolated. You see all this friends and family and getting together and parties, and that doesn't necessarily include everyone. And even if you do get invited, sometimes you just feel, I don't know, that isolation. And if you're away from your family, or they live in another part of the country, or you're traveling for work, you know, it's just kind of it can kind of get to you when it just should be time surrounded by friends and family and you just kind of alone, right? So that's one of those reasons that can be really tough. I touched on this as well, too. It's that grief or loss. You know, if you've experienced someone who's passed away over the holiday season, you know, they can really make this a painful time because those memories kind of come flooding back, and maybe you remember the times with your mom and dad and all the traditions that you used to do, and now they're not with you. And unfortunately, that kind of brings that grief and that feeling of loss back to you as well. And you're conflicted and kind of pulled because this is supposed to be a really happy and joyous time, yet you're kind of feeling and experiencing that sadness because maybe people that you loved are no longer with you. Those are really hard things, and kind of that dynamic and push and pull of emotions that are going to weigh on people over the holidays as well, too. And number three, you know, we touched on this last week as well, financial strain, right? Gift giving, travel expenses, going skiing. By the way, I mean, I looked at what it costs to go skiing. I don't know how anybody affords the sport anymore. When I was growing up, you know, it was maybe $100 for a lift ticket. Now it's double and triple that, and the skis and the airfare and the rentals. It's wild. But you've got gift giving, you've got travel, you've got holiday events, you've got parties, you've got just your typical bills on top of that. That is going to add a lot of pressure and stress on top of things are already very expensive in our world right now. Hopefully that's going to change in the next couple months, but it really is tough. So just be mindful of those added pressures financially. Then you layer on kind of unrealistic expectations, which I think can come with the holiday season. So you want to make everything perfect, right? You want to give the right gifts, and you want to go to the right parties, and maybe if things don't go as planned, or you're seeing your neighbors doing certain things, or kids from school and families doing certain things, and you're not up to that level, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm frustrated, anxious, nervous. I'm comparing myself. Like, I've set myself up for failure or stress because of these unrealistic expectations. I got to get the holiday lights up. I got to get the trip plan. I got to get the gift spot. I got to get da-da-da-da-da. I mean, it's a lot to kind of pile on as you're going through an already busy time of year. Now, here's something else that can make it tough. What about the family tension, right? I mean, again, we talked about it last episode of kind of dealing with people with different viewpoints and political viewpoints especially. We're still kind of coming off this election, and I think there could be family tension on top of just normal family tension of brothers and sisters who may not get along, or in-laws who may not get along. It's just challenging. Are we doing Christmas here? Are we doing Thanksgiving there? You had it last year, this year. You got divorced parents. You got blended families. It is a lot. So if you've got unresolved conflicts or kind of uncomfortable dynamics, you know, family tensions can flare up, and that just makes the holiday time, what's supposed to be quote unquote fun, a little more challenging as well too. Now let's think about, you got all this stuff. Now you've got these overwhelming social demands. You've got holiday parties. You've got your friends' Christmas parties. You got gatherings. It can be exhausting for introverts, or just people with social anxiety, or people with kids who just don't have the time, strength, or energy to get to all this stuff, even though they may want to do that, right? So again, all these things are going to be happening over the next 6 weeks that just kind of pile on and make this time of year, again, what's supposed to be fun and relaxing and joyous and grateful and da-da-da-da-da. and can push you into that stressful, anxious, frustrated kind of place. So I'm just highlighting these, and then I'm going to give you the plan on how to address a lot of this as well, too. And let me also mention there's a real thing called seasonal affect disorder as well, too. So that's less sunlight, colder weather can kind of trigger this seasonal affect disorder as well, too. You know, I used to, when I was a little bit younger, I'm not sure if I didn't believe in this. I just never really knew. But when I was early 20s, I went to a treatment center. It was actually just after I went to primary care. I went to kind of a step-down care facility just outside of Seattle, Oregon. You know, I'd been living in Arizona for, 15 years or something like that. It's bright and sunny, and we're used to all this. And I moved up just outside of Seattle in a place called Port Townsend, and I was already a little kind of up and down because you were, early 20s. I'm in treatment and rehab and school, and I had a lot of stuff going on. And then you put me in like this, and I'm out, normally I'm very outdoors and active. Put me in this town that was just gray and rainy and cold and just every single day felt the thing. And I really started to feel the effects. And I remember very clearly telling my counselor at the time, I'm like, I'm not a depressed person, but like I'm feeling depressed and down and things like that. And they started to explain to me, on top of all the other things that were going on, what this seasonal affect disorder is. So it is a real thing when kind of this weather shifts and you go from all this sunlight and things, and now we're changing kind of gears. Just be mindful of kind of the seasonal affect disorder and what that could potentially look like, or could kind of help you maybe feel a little bit depressed or something like that. And then last but not least, there's just the health and wellness side. Let's call it what it really is, though, eating and drinking, right? Let's just call it what it really is, eating and drinking. It's a lot of unhealthy food. It's probably extra drinking. A lot of times people kind of let it go. Even if you watch it a little bit closer over the course of the year, you kind of let it go. And I've said this before on previous shows, and I've heard many other people say it, but I actually do believe it. Go easy on yourself as you do this, over the holidays. I think it's more important from January to Thanksgiving to kind of be mindful of what you eat and drink. It can let up a little bit from Thanksgiving to New Year, right? I'm not saying go crazy, but just understand that if you got all this other stuff going, now maybe you're coping with a couple extra pops, a couple extra martinis, and now you're eating a couple extra things that maybe aren't a part of your normal diet. It's just going to add on to kind of this burden a little bit, this kind of sense of that you're going through the holidays, and create a little stress and anxiety as well, too. Okay, so those are some of the reasons why it's a little bit of a challenging time, So what's this grand plan that you speak of, Steve? Look, I wouldn't say it's a grand plan. It's just I want us to be positive through the holidays. So really what I want you to do is just give it some thought. Whether you use these ideas that I'm going to throw out here to you today, give it some thought before you kind of mindlessly wander into the holiday season and then get frustrated, irritated, put on 20 pounds or whatever it is. Just go into it with a little bit of a plan on how we can be positive rolling through the holiday season. So, number one, let's set some realistic expectations as we roll into this thing, right? Choose some meaningful activities and gatherings to focus on, and be sure to enjoy them. Do the things that you enjoy, right? Don't try and make everything perfect, and don't feel like you've got to attend every single thing as well, too, right? For me, we've got Turkey Trot, we've got our Thanksgiving, we're going to go to the Princess, I'll have family in town, and we'll do a ski trip. And then New Year's, I've never been a big New Year's guy, so that one doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. Toasting shit, I don't stay up till midnight ever anyway, so that's not really a big thing. I pick and choose the things that I want to do, and there's certain traditions that are really important to me, and I make sure that I do those. And the rest of that stuff, if it fits and I feel up to it or it makes sense, then I'm going to do that. But I know what my priorities are going into this holiday season. Do you know yours? Do you know the things that are absolutely the most important to you that are going to make you happiest as you go through the holidays as well, too? Take some time, think about it, maybe talk about it with your husband, wife, kids, and come up with a family plan around this as well, too. If you have some traditions and maybe they're things that you have done over the years, but maybe they're making you a little more stressful these days, feel free to tweak them as well, too. You're allowed to shift from some traditions or make entirely new traditions on your own as well, too. these traditions, whatever it is, shouldn't make your life more difficult or stressful, right? I know some people like to go out and chop down an actual tree and drag it back to their house and good for you. That sounds terrible to me. I put up our tree last night. It's a fake tree. I love it. We've got our tradition around doing it. To me, driving a couple hours to chop down a tree and throw it in, and that sounds stressful, irritating, and I'm going to come back frustrated, irritable, and not happy, right? So just take a look at your traditions and make sure that they're bringing you joy. Maybe you haven't evaluated them a while. Maybe you haven't asked the kids of is this really fun? I mean, isn't there like a whole National Lampoons or Chevy Chase? What is it? I haven't watched it this year yet, where they go and do that. Anyways, go watch the movie. You'll figure out what I'm talking. Christmas Vacation. Thank you, Robin. I'm an idiot. Okay. Now, let's also be sure, as we're planning for a positive holiday season, let's create a budget and plan ahead financially so we can be responsible. This is something for me I got to be a little more conscious of. We've got the blended family now, right? I've got, me, my wife, my ex-wife, and her kids, and our shared daughter, and then we got my parents, and we got her family. And all of a sudden, I've noticed that the kids get a lot of gifts because we got the blended family thing, right? And it's like, holy crap, this is excessive, in my opinion, because they're getting them from my parents. They're getting them from me. They're getting them from her. They're getting them from her brothers and sisters. They're getting it from, and it's like, it's a lot, and it's too much, and it's excessive, candidly. So I think it's a good reason, even more so in our case, to kind of make sure that we budget and kind of plan accordingly. But let's make sure that we know what we can comfortably spend on gifts, what we can comfortably spend on travel. And let's try and stick to this budget so you don't create new stressors throughout the holiday because you just said, this is what I normally do and I got to go do it. If you've got to skinny it down for 1 year on the gifts or something like that, then skinny it down. People will be okay. It's not the end of the world. Just be like, look, things are a little bit tighter. Still love you. This is what I can do this year. Or don't say anything because you really shouldn't have to if they're friends or family or something like that, right? And just take a year and just do a little bit less or get more creative with how you do it. Consider more meaningful or low-cost gifts and thoughtful gestures, handwritten notes, handmade gifts. Don't make the dollar value of the item be the thing. Make it be the gift or the gesture, right? So think about that. Now, let's also think about building and maintaining some boundaries as we're rolling into the holiday season. We talk a lot about this as well, too, but set some boundaries with family members. Communicate what those are. I mean, specifically, what those are. Hey, I really don't want to get into politics. I really don't want to get into whatever it is that continues to be, the hot button item that sends us all, spiraling into some angry conversation. Let's avoid these triggering conversations or dynamics. It's also okay when you're together, even with your family, to still limit the amount of time with certain individuals if it becomes a problem, right? You're allowed to, kind of get together, and then you're also allowed to be like, great, I'm going to go back to the hotel, or I'm going to go back to my room, or I'm going to go for a walk, or do whatever it is I need to do. Communicate that out. Doesn't have to be a thing. Let's try and prevent these kind of blow-up explosions from happening. Again, we want these to be positive, fun, happy times. On this same note, and I'm a big believer on this, and I say this in a lot of interviews that I do, say no when necessary. It's 100% okay to say no to something that you flat out don't want to do. You don't have to attend every event. You don't have to get to every family get-together. Choose the gatherings that are fulfilling and allow yourself to decline the other ones. It's very simple. Now, check your motivations when you're saying no as well, too. Are you saying no to spite them or to kind of cause a rift and kind of turn the knife into somebody, or using it to kind of jab somebody? Or are you saying no because, I'm stressed, that's too much, that's my third event in a row, I can't do that, I don't have the time, I don't have the budget, I've got my kids, whatever it is, it's okay to say no. Check your motivations on the no, but it's 100% okay to say no. And you probably should, because I think if you start hitting every single event and party and gathering and things, and you're just going to be worn out, and you're not going to be good to anybody, right? So say no. Get some of your own sanity back, right? Next thing I like to talk about, practice some self-care daily as you're going through this holiday season. Make sure you're prioritizing sleep. Keep an eye on that nutrition. Keep an eye on what you're eating, because if you're doing this and you're caught up in all this stuff and all of a sudden, You're having all those little extra holiday treats, right? I love me a holiday treat. I already had some pumpkin pie earlier. It was, I think, my parents' house, and I was like, let's go for a couple extra slices. I don't care. But that's okay to do, but just be mindful of it, right? Be mindful of it. I worry more about excessive alcohol, truthfully, than I do with food, because the excessive alcohol can kind of spiral you into some of these other depressive things as well, too. It can worsen your anxiety or potentially depressing and things like that. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on the food and drink as you're rolling through the holiday season. Make sure you're getting enough sleep as well, too. Don't forget the workouts. Make sure that you're moving. Physical activity is a natural mood booster. Get out there and do it. I don't care what you're doing, but do it. Don't wait till the first of the year and set all those goals that you're not going to do. Go for a walk today. Go for a run. Go for a jog. I have invited, this is no joke, I've probably invited no less than 150 people to sign up for the turkey trot that I'm going to do. I do the turkey trot out here. It's downtown Phoenix every year. It's a blast. People get in their turkey costumes. There's thousands of people. There's a tot trot my daughter's doing this year. It's like a 50-yard dash. There's a mile one for a little bit older kids. It's a blast. Get up and move. You don't have to run it. Go walk it. Do something just to kind of keep the body moving. It's kind of that, in a way, to kind of bolster yourself from any depression, anxiety, and all that stuff. It's going to energize you. It's going to reduce a little bit stress as well, too. And through all this time, don't forget to set a little time for your own personal relaxation as well, too. Find little moments in the day where you can recharge, whether it's reading, cup of coffee, a little tea, sit, read, whatever it is that you do that kind of brings you a little peace and quiet and kind of make sure you're recharging those batteries, because it's a lot. I've only have the one daughter. I imagine if you had more kids and she wants to do everything and go to the park and put the stuff up. We got to put the lights up outside the house. It's a lot of stuff that's going on, right? So now, as you're going through this, let's make sure we have some supportive people in our life as well, too. And we want to lean on some of those supportive people, those positive relationships that we have. Your friends, your family, your community member, your church, congregation. Make sure that you're checking in with them every once in a while and you don't just get overwhelmed. See how they're doing, and you can kind of see how they're doing, vice versa as well, too. And I always think during the holiday season, I know we do this during the holiday season, and I wish we did it more, but what the hell, do it anyways. Find a way to give back. I almost every year, I'm not going to say every year, almost every year go and grab one of the little, angel things off a tree at the mall or Target or Walmart or whatever has that, and it has a 5-year-old girl's Christmas wish list, and we go out and we buy that, and you bring it back in, and you kind of make somebody's day, right? Look, is that just buying stuff? Sure. Look, but it helps. There's somebody out there who doesn't have the couple extra bucks to provide them with a great Christmas gift or whatever this year. If you want to do the food kitchen, great. There's plenty of opportunity to do that, especially around Thanksgiving time. Do whatever it is you need to do, but just go do something. You'll always enjoy it after the fact. I know sometimes it's like, you get those kind of, do I want to go do this? I've never had that thought of regret once I've done it. Right? It's just one of those things where you got to get out and do it. And this is a perfect time of year to do it. Right? All right. Next up on our plan to stay positive, see if we can limit the social media a little bit, right? A little bit. I know we're on our phones. I know we're going to check it. I'm as guilty as anybody, but let's dial it back. And you know what else? I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was like, you can kind of curate your feed a little bit, meaning who you follow, things that you consume or watch while you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it is, YouTube. You can curate your feed a little bit more so that you're seeing more positive things, more uplifting things. So you're not just in that comparison trap. Oh, look at what they're doing. They're going to the Bahamas over Christmas and we're just staying here. Oh, they're doing this. Like, you don't want to get into that envy trap because you're seeing all this. Let's follow some people with maybe more positive content and maybe unfollow some of those folks that you can kind of break out of that little rut that you may be in, especially over the holidays. But let's just dial it back. Let's just see if we can dial it back and get out of that comparison trap a little bit. Mute some of the accounts that you don't want to hear, right? Politics time is, it's kind of over. There's a lot going on, but you can mute some of the other stuff. Let's get back to recipes and party planning and fun Christmas ideas and all that kind of stuff. Let's Let's get to some of that and less of the divisive stuff, right? Divisive? Same thing? I never understood that one. I don't even know why I went with that one over one way or the other, but live and learn, right? Okay, next thing up on my list, because I want to keep this positive, let's plan to engage in some meaningful activities, right? Let's find some gratitude as we're going through this. What does that mean? That means that find something you're grateful for every single day. You know, when I say the prayers with my daughter every single night, you know, I've kind of coached her, helped her on kind of how to say them. This doesn't have to be about prayers for you. Don't get all upset. That's what we choose to do in our life. But I've said, you know, let's list out a couple things that we're grateful for as you're kind of saying your prayers. And so that's something, and I do the same thing. We alternate nights. She says prayers one night, I say it the next night. And then I go through my list of things that we're grateful for on top of some other things as well. And it's become a little tradition around our house. And it's cool to kind of see the things that she remembers as she goes over the course of the day. A lot of toy-based stuff. We're working on that, right? We're working on that, but we're getting there. We're at least moving into the gratitude place. You know, gratitude can really increase your resilience, and it's really going to help your mood if you can find those little moments in your day just to kind of check in with gratitude a little bit. We do that in a lot of hot yoga. In fact, I get a little sarcastic in my mind because it's like they say the little thing before we close out the hot yoga. I was there this morning, and they always mention gratitude, and I just kind of chuckle to myself because it's kind of like, okay, we get it. Can we go through a yoga? But it's true at the same time, and I think for a lot of people that is the daily reminder to do it. You know, I shouldn't be as sarcastic about it, but, you know, I talk about gratitude a lot, so it kind of jumps out at me. Now, it's also a good time to, I'm not going to go down the goal-setting thing, but start to think about some goals for the new year. I would also encourage you to look at the goals that you set last year, see where you're at in November, see if you can maybe scratch a few of those off before December hits, right? See if we can knock a few of those out. I think that would be a good thing, you know, and then we can start thinking about goals for next year. Look, if this is all overwhelming and too much, as always, seek some professional help as well, too. You know, it's a tough time of year. You know, it can be overwhelming, candidly, time of year as well, too. So seek some professional help. Last but not least, you know, there's always going to be some challenging people, right, in the holiday season. So let's just go ahead and address this little nugget while we're going to get in here. If you find yourself engaging or having to be around some challenging people, right, let's just have these three little things. Practice some active listening, all right? Try to listen more than you talk, which can diffuse kind of these tense conversations or situations. Allow others to feel heard, right, without necessarily agreeing with them. So you don't have to agree with them, just practice active listening. So these are those people where you're just like, oh, God, I got to see them at that stupid party. Like, you should probably not have that thought as much. It's okay to have the thought, but those thoughts can kind of lead you into, you know, a negative attitude walking into the event or something like that as well, too. So practice some active listening as you're doing this. Now, let's also prepare some responses for triggering topics. What does that mean? Think of calm or kind responses ahead of time if the conversations turn towards kind of stressful or, you know, not happy topics. I'd prefer not discuss this right now. I think that's the most simple way that you can kind of do this, right? But I'd have a couple canned responses ready to go when you get into these things. It's like, oh, crap, here we go. And it's like, you've tried the active listening. You're kind of chomping at the bit to say something. You know what? Take a breath. Take a step back. You know what? I think I just probably prefer not to discuss this right now. Just back out. Kindly back out. Save the argument. Save the fight. Live the fight another day. All right? And last but not least on this, when you're just running into somebody you're just butting heads with or you know you're going to butt heads with, let's just have an exit plan. Right? Have this already planned out. That's why I'm saying give this thought now before we get into the full swing of everything. Have an exit plan. If you're feeling overwhelmed at a gathering, have a strategy for breaking or leaving politely. Get that Irish exit going, right? You could take a walk, you could leave, you could step out, or just leave. I mean, let's face it. You know, you can just ghost out too and don't even feel bad about it. You know, look, the goal of this entire episode is get you thinking now while we have a little bit of peace and calm and quiet before we get into full swing holiday kind of smorgasbord extravaganza. set some healthy expectations, find a way to have a positive outlook, at least going into this. Maybe you only make it a week or two into it before you go back to your normal insanity, but you bought yourself an extra 2 weeks by having this kind of positive plan. Now you've got a few tools. My goal is you can find a little balance and peace through this holiday season. Look, this would be a great episode to share with your friends, family, and loved ones as well, to hit those 3 little buttons, ship it out to somebody else. I'm going to go ahead and post it online as well, too. But hopefully this can give you a little insight to plan for a positive holiday season. Good stuff. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Till next time, thank you very much.